Hi, my name is Joe. I'm from South Korea, and you're about to see my demo reel for the game Cube. Now, Cube is a first-person shooter with a lot of ugly monsters, and for my reel, you're about to see how I designed the sounds for the game, and I implemented them into the game using Wwise. Check it out.
So before we start creating sounds, we need to fill up our asset list with the events we'll be creating. This is a fundamental beginning process to keep everything in order and above all on track. I vocalized and created all the monster sounds with a voice transformer. Here's an example of Ogre Death.
And the final sounds. So some of the other monster sounds that were created were for grunts and pains. I layer most of my sounds in Pro Tools and divide it into two sections, the roar and the body. And I also used a lot of plugins such as EQ, filters, and saturations to give a lot of punch and body to all the monster sounds. I made most of my items from scratch using household items, and I wanted each item to have its unique characteristic depending on the weapon that the player chose.
For the health item, I created a swooshing sound and added a voice comment in the same game event and delayed its time.
Oh yeah.
For the shotgun blast, I layered the sound into two parts, the punch and the ambience or verb. I use household items again to recreate these sonic qualities, making sure I have enough punch and mid-range. I got a lot of sonic variation for the tail of the shotgun, working with pink noise and a synthesizer filter and its noise properties. For the shotgun pump, I used some tools, and on Wwise, I layered the pumps separately to pump in and out. And I also delayed its timing with the initial blast. In Wwise, you can define the position of your objects both in 2D and 3D. For the pump, I place the sounds just to the left of the player's face. For the rifle sound blast, I use my own voice for the punch, flick the paper for the attack, and rub the paper for the blast's tail. This was a fun challenge to create. For the rocket launcher, I use my own voice for the punch. I use the gas torch for the mid-range, and I use Audacity's plug tone generators. My level had different types of materials, including grass, and gravel. Also, the footsteps were under a sequence container, so they played the left and the right sequentially. Friend and musician Dan uses voice acting skills. I recorded about 4 different sounds for death, pain, and jump, and put them all in random containers. These random containers also have pitch randomizations so that every single variation will be different in tone. To give the character some extra life, I added a breathing switch container with 3 different divisions. low, medium, and high. These are all controlled by the player's health gain parameter, RTPC, so that the breathing will increase depending on his health. The lower his health is, the faster and higher his breathing will be. To add more realism to the game, I use states in Wwise. In this case, when the player is inside the water, all the weapon sounds will be affected by a low-pass filter. Cube lets you set up your own ambience areas as well as reverb areas. Here's an example of setting an envelope corridor reverb for this certain area. I tried to experiment with my ambient sounds, so I put my mic in very unconventional places and blended those sounds. I also recorded some ambient sounds that were related to my level to create a more sense of realism. The last thing I did with my ambiences was to put a trigger in the tunnel area, where many Baul monsters are outside. I wanted to create this sense of fear and alert, so I placed a sound trigger with a heavy monster footstep sample and set the ambience area. This is controlled by an RTPC volume, so that the closer the player gets to the monster, the heavier the ambience will sound. I composed the music and used the layer approach. I use many different sounds and a guitar, a bass, and a drum machine as well. The objective of Wwise and the composer is to create a random non-linear music piece that will engage the player during many different moments. I created some random steps which add subtracks to your instruments, so over time when the piece loops back, it could either play or not play, or it could play whatever other variation you have. I linked the monster's suspense RTPC with my string staccatos so that the more monsters there are, the strings appear more present with a volume and a filter. For this other instance, I linked the monsters remaining with the rhythm track so that the less monsters there are, the percussion will start fading out. I also connected a music switch group and created 3 different guitar tracks, one for Fleshly Wound, another for Badly Injured, and the last for Nearly Dead. I associated these with the switch group, so these are all controlled by the player's health parameter. Last but not least, I created a sound for the death as well. Finally, all the music I put for this reel was an example of how Wwise would play my music game level. I let the music running for the length of this reel and played with some of the aforementioned parameters.
Thanks for watching my demo reel for the game Cube using Wwise. It was quite a challenge to do this, and keep playing.